Max says, guys, are you ready? We're going to the witch's house tonight. Alex nervously says, I don't know, Max. People say she's cursed. What if she really is a witch? Jake says that's what makes it fun. Come on, Alex. Where's your sense of adventure? Then Max smirks and starts walking towards the forest. Max looking around and says it's just an old house. It's not like she's going to turn us into frogs. Alex whispering and says, I heard she can see you before you even knock. Jake laughing and says that's just a story. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Then the wind howls, and the boys shiver. Max whispering and says this is it. The witch's house. Alex says it looks even creepier up close. Jake says let's knock. Then Jake steps forward and knocks on the door, which creaks open by itself. Alex nervously says, should we go in? Max says we came this far. Let's explore. They enter cautiously, and the door slams shut behind them. Jake whispering and says, did you hear that? Max trying to act brave and says it's just the wind. Alex says no, it sounded like a voice. A dark figure is seen briefly in the corner of the room, then vanishes. Max pointing and says look. We should check that out. They push the door open, revealing a room filled with potions and strange symbol. Jake excitedly and says this is so cool. Alex worried and says we shouldn't touch anything. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes from behind them, which says why have you come to my home? The boys freeze in fear. Max stammering and says we were just curious. Alex whispering and says we should run. Jake defiantly and says no. We can't show fear. Witch smirking and says you have trespassed. Now, you must face the consequences. Alex, what do you mean? Witch gesturing around and says you must choose. One of you will stay, while the others escape. Max whispering and says we can't leave anyone behind. Jake determined and says I'll stay. I'll face her. Alex shouting and says no. We can find another way. The witch's laughter echoes through the room. Max spotting a window and says what if we climb out the window? Alex nervously and says it's too high. We'd get hurt. Jake wait. What if this helps? The witch watches, intrigued. Alex hesitating and says are you sure this is safe? Jake confidently and says it has to be better than staying here. They drink the potion, and a strange glow envelops them. Max shocked and says what's happening? Jake I think we're changing. The witch looks on, amused. Max with newfound strength and says we won't be your prisoners. Alex determined and says we'll fight back. They prepare to confront the witch, their powers crackling around them. Witch angrily and says you think you can defeat me? Jake firing a spell and says we're not afraid of you. The room fills with energy as they clash. Alex frantically and says what do we do now? Max thinking quickly and says we need to work together. They combine their powers, creating a massive energy blast. Witch defiant and says you can't defeat me. Max shouting and says we believe in each other. They unleash their combined powers, overwhelming the witch. Alex breathing heavily and says we did it. We made it out. Jake that was insane. Max smiling and says we faced our fears and won. Alex reflectively and says I'll never doubt our friendship again. Jake cheerfully and says next adventure? Max nodding and says definitely. But maybe not a witch's house. They laugh together as they leave the eerie forest behind.